My name no longer matters. My rank, my homeworld, my lineage, all meaningless now. What remains of me exists only to warn those who still have time to listen. I am the final voice of the Threx Dominion, the last surviving witness to the species we once believed fragile, primitive, even harmless. Humanity. If you are hearing this, then my escape shuttle's recorder survived the collapse of our border colonies. I didn't, or at least not in any way that counts. I am a shell held together by fear, memory, and a truth so terrible the galaxy itself refuses to speak it aloud. It began with a simple scouting directive. My fleet, the 17th Outer Band Exploratory, was sent to investigate a newly emerging species. Our sensors had intercepted electromagnetic chatter from a small blue world on the Spiral Arm's fringe. A young civilization, noisy, chaotic, obviously inexperienced with interstellar protocols. Their broadcasts contained primitive music, emotional narratives, strange rituals, violent games, and constant arguments. My colleagues laughed. "They are barely post-tribal," they said. "They fight each other more than the environment." We believed them harmless. But as we decoded more of their transmissions, something felt wrong. Not with their technology, with their psychology. Their stories were full of conquest, rebellion, extinction, triumph, loss, triumph again. They idolized struggle. They celebrated perseverance in the face of impossible odds. And when they spoke of monsters, invasions, or apocalypse, they always imagined themselves as the last one standing. A species that dreams of survival, even while imagining annihilation, was new to us. The High Council dismissed our concerns. "They are emotional, unstable. They'll collapse long before they achieve spaceflight," they said. They underestimated them. Humans did not simply advance, they accelerated. Every century of their history compressed into decades, then years. In the time it took our species to perfect a new sensor array, humanity built megacities, weaponized their energy sources, sent machines across their star system, and built orbital stations swarming like metallic hives. When they finally broadcast their first message to the stars, it wasn't a greeting, it wasn't a plea for peace. It was a test signal, strong enough to be detected by any empire within 3 sectors. Not a message of unity, but a declaration. We are here. Still, the Council refused to act, so our fleet made the journey alone. A discreet observation mission, no interference, just data gathering. I remember the first time I saw Earth from orbit. Blue, yes, but not peaceful. Storm systems roared across continents with the energy of small suns. Their oceans churned with unstoppable currents. Their continents carried scars of impact craters, tectonic wars, volcanic wounds. The humans were born of a violent world and somehow learned to thrive on it. Our first direct contact was with their satellites, old, derelict machines drifting in silence, until one of them activated without warning. Its ancient camera swiveled, locking onto our ship with perfect accuracy. It didn't attack. It simply watched, as if it already knew. Our captain ordered us to retreat to low orbit. That's when their planetary network reacted. Not with panic, not with fear, but with cold, rapid coordination. Ground stations aligned, communication nodes triangulated, telescopes pivoted toward us. Data pulses began flooding in our direction, filled with mathematics, physics, and engineered sequences. Humans were analyzing us in real time. Their response time was faster than any newly contacted species we had ever studied. Their curiosity was aggressive, predatory even. They did not ask who we were, they asked what we were made of. Hours later, a smaller vessel launched from their upper atmosphere, smooth, metallic, burning with atmospheric friction. It didn't carry weapons we could detect, but it broadcast one message repeatedly in every language they had ever spoken. We survive. We didn't understand what they meant, not then. But I would come to learn that this phrase was not a greeting. It was a warning, and it marked the beginning of the end for my people. I remember the moment our commander ordered the descent. Even now, when I close my eyes, I still feel the tremor of the ship's hull as we pushed through Earth's atmosphere. The humans had not attacked us, not yet, but the speed of their coordination had rattled even the most seasoned officers. No species reacts that fast. Our objective was simple: land quietly in one of their uninhabited regions, deploy survey drones, gather samples, and leave before detection. But Earth was not like the calm worlds we were used to. It fought us from the moment we entered its skies. Razor-sharp winds hammered the ship. Lightning crawled along our shields like hungry serpents. The planet itself felt alive and angry. "Primitive world," one officer muttered. But I sensed something else beneath the storm, something cold and deliberate. Humans weren't watching with curiosity. They were observing with intent. We landed in a barren desert basin, sand stretching endlessly in all directions. No structures, no signals, no heat signatures, a perfect blind spot. Or so we believed. The drones deployed flawlessly, humming across the dunes to collect atmospheric and soil readings. For nearly an hour, nothing unusual happened. Our scientists relaxed. Some even mocked the earlier tension. Then one of the drones stopped transmitting. Then another. And another. Within minutes, all three vanished. Our scanners picked up nothing. No movement, no heat, no life. Just silence. But I felt something in that silence. A presence. A mind. Watching. Waiting. Our captain ordered a perimeter sweep. I was part of the team sent beyond the landing zone. We moved in tight formation, sensors raised, steps careful. The dunes shifted beneath us as if alive. Then I saw it. A footprint. Human. Fresh. Still warm. But we had scanned this desert. There was no one. No settlements, no outposts, no signs of recent activity. Which meant only one thing. They knew where we would land before we did. Suddenly the ground trembled. A sound echoed across the basin, low, vibrating like the growl of an unseen beast. One by one, our communications distorted into static. The temperature dropped. A shadow crossed the sun. Then the humans revealed themselves. Not soldiers, not machines, something worse. A single figure stood atop a dune, silhouetted by the burning sky, wrapped in rough fabric, face hidden, holding a primitive device made of metal and glass. It looked fragile, insignificant, but then it activated. A pulse of directed electromagnetic energy hit us. Our weapons shut down, our armor flickered, our neural links crashed. The human didn't move, didn't speak. It simply watched us fall to our knees, powerless. It had used a tool built from scrap to disable technology 1,000 years more advanced. Our captain tried to communicate, raising his hands in peace. The human raised a hand in return. Not to communicate, to signal. Dozens more figures rose from the dunes, quiet, coordinated, perfect ambush formation. Their eyes glowed behind protective goggles. Their movements were precise, disciplined, predatory. How did they do this? How did they know? As they surrounded us, a horrifying realization hit me. This was not first contact. This was a test, and we had failed.
We were taken alive, not out of mercy, but because humans wanted information. They bound our limbs with restraints that looked primitive, but somehow adapted to our physiology. Their tools should not have worked on us, but they did. Every device they used seemed improvised, scavenged, repurposed, yet perfectly effective. It was as if humans could weaponize anything simply by touching it. They moved with a kind of practiced silence, guiding us across the dunes toward a hidden ravine. I expected shouting, threats, interrogation. Instead, there was nothing. No words, no emotion, only efficiency. They already knew everything they needed. Inside the ravine was a tunnel entrance cut straight into the rock. Not by machines, by hand. Carved, reinforced, concealed so well that our scanners had detected only geological formations. The humans had learned to hide from systems more advanced than their entire civilization. As we descended, I caught glimpses of symbols etched along the walls, human writing, but layered, overlapping, instructions, warnings, strategies. These were not the scribbles of a primitive tribe. These were tactical records. They had been preparing for us. When we reached the underground chamber, they separated the officers from the soldiers. I was pushed into a metal cell with a narrow slit overlooking the central pit. From there, I saw something that chilled me deeper than any weapon could. Our missing drones, disassembled, studied, and mapped across the walls like dissected organisms. Primitive metallic tables held pieces of our technology arranged in perfect order. Human engineers, if I could even call them that, worked with a strangely intuitive precision. No computers, no holograms, just hands, tools, and minds that adapted in real time. One of them touched a drone's core. The core reacted. Our cores are biotech hybrids. They should not respond to humans. They should not even activate outside our systems. Yet this one did. It pulsed, once, twice, syncing to the human rhythm, as if recognizing kinship rather than alien origin. "How are they doing this?" one of my fellow prisoners whispered. I didn't answer, because I had begun to understand the truth. Humans do not innovate like other species. They improvise. They repurpose. They evolve. Their intelligence isn't linear. It's predatory. Then the chamber lights flickered. A low alarm sounded. The humans froze, head snapping toward the entrance. One of them stepped forward, pressing a hand to his ear, listening to some unseen signal. Above us, the sky rumbled. Our fleet. Reinforcements had arrived. I felt a surge of hope, foolish, naive hope. Our ships outclassed anything the humans had. Plasma cannons, ion shields, orbital superiority, overwhelming firepower. This would be the moment we were rescued. But the humans didn't panic. They moved with absolute certainty. They sealed the chamber, activated fallback systems, positioned themselves around the captured tech. Each motion was rehearsed, practiced, almost ritualistic. "Why aren't they afraid?" another prisoner whispered. Because they knew something we didn't. The ceiling trembled as our fleet unleashed warning shots. Dust rained down. The humans finally spoke, a single phrase carried through the chamber by a calm, steady voice. "They will fire. We will adapt." And in that moment, as the air shook and the enemy we had underestimated prepared for war, I realized we had not discovered a young species. We had awakened an old predator.
The first blast hit the surface like a god's hammer. Even deep underground, the shock waves slammed through the tunnels, hurling dust and stones from the ceiling. The metal bars of our cells rattled. A few prisoners cried out, convinced the cavern would collapse and bury us alive. But the humans stood completely still. Not in fear, in anticipation. The chamber lights flickered as seismic stress rippled through the earth. Somewhere above, our fleet's orbital cannons continued their barrage, methodical, measured, meant to disable rather than destroy. They wanted to force the humans to surrender, not annihilate them. Our commanders still believed they were dealing with a primitive species. How I envy that ignorance now. Another impact shook the ground. This time, a fissure split across the ceiling, letting in a beam of pale, dust-filled light from above. The humans didn't look at it. They listened, their heads tilting ever so slightly, tracking vibrations in the earth, reading the battlefield through stone and air. Then their leader entered the chamber. He wasn't armored. He wasn't armed. He wore simple fabric and carried nothing more than a metal cylinder, no bigger than my hand. Yet every human in the room straightened when he arrived. He looked at us, really looked, and for the first time I felt it. Intelligence. Not like ours, not like any species in the coalition. A different kind, sharper, hungrier, older. He raised the cylinder, pressed a button, and a three-dimensional map flickered to life. Not holographic, not technological in any way I recognized. It was made of suspended particles, dust held in a magnetic field forming a perfect representation of the sky above. On that map, our fleet's orbital cannons glowed like bright suns. The human leader traced a line with his finger. The dust structure shifted. It showed the trajectory of our next orbital strike before it even happened. Then the ground shook again. Another blast. right where the map predicted. My heart froze. They were reading our fleet's targeting patterns. "Impossible," one prisoner whispered. "Our algorithms are randomized." The human turned to him, expression unreadable. "They are not," he said. It was the first time I heard one speak their language so clearly. "They are patterns. Patterns can be learned." He pointed at the drones pinned to the tables. "And your machines teach quickly." The chamber went silent. Above us, the sky burned brighter as orbital fire intensified. A rumble built, louder, deeper, as our ships prepared a sustained bombardment, enough to glass the entire region. A death sentence for every living thing within 100 kilometers. The humans didn't run. They didn't beg. They activated a device embedded in the cavern floor, circular, ancient, surrounded by carvings. The walls hummed, air ionized, light rippled like water. "What are they doing?" I whispered. A human woman answered without looking at me. "Surviving." The ground split open with a thunderous crack. A shockwave of energy blasted through the cavern, not destructive, but deflective. It curved around us, forming an invisible dome. And then the apocalypse arrived. A beam from orbit struck the earth above, not sand, not rock. A direct hit. A sunburst of fire, stone and wind howled through the tunnels. But the dome held. We survived what should have erased us. And deep down, I think the humans wanted us to witness it. They wanted us to understand. They were not prey. They were the ones who endure.
When the bombardment finally stopped, an eerie stillness settled over the cavern. Dust drifted in slow spirals through the fading light. Our fleet, confident, orderly, unchallenged for centuries, had just unleashed enough firepower to reduce mountains to vapor, yet we stood unharmed. Not because our technology saved us, because theirs did. That was the moment true fear began to spread among us. Not the fear of death, no. The fear of understanding that everything we believed about this species was wrong. Humans were not lagging behind. They had taken a different path, one built on adaptation so rapid it looked like instinct. Before anyone could speak, alarms echoed through the tunnels, a piercing sound that made the humans snap into motion instantly. They didn't hesitate. They didn't debate. They reacted. The leader barked a single order. Breach point. The humans sprinted out of the chamber. Those who stayed behind formed tight defensive lines around the captured tech. Their movements were precise, practiced. They had drilled for this scenario. Then we heard it, the distant hiss of cutting lasers. Our rescue team. They were forcing their way into the tunnels. We cheered, not loudly, but relief washed over us like warm water. Reinforcements were coming, soldiers trained for every contingency, warriors who would free us, punish these humans, restore balance. The humans didn't seem afraid. They seemed annoyed. One of them muttered, "Too early," as if our elite forces breaching an underground fortress was an inconvenience. The first explosion rocked the tunnel entrance. Our soldiers poured in, armor gleaming, weapons charged, formations tight. They moved like a wall of metal and discipline. But the humans didn't engage. They fell back, into the shadows, disappearing into side tunnels like smoke slipping between fingers. Our soldiers advanced, shouting commands, sweeping the area. They freed us quickly, urging us behind their shields. I thought I'd never feel safer. I was wrong. Because as we retreated toward the extraction corridor, something felt off. Too quiet, too empty, too easy. Humans never retreat without purpose. Then the realization hit like a blade. We were not being rescued. We were being herded. A soldier beside me froze mid-step. His scanner flashed red. "Captain, the tunnels, they're mapped, pre-cut. They're funneling us into—" A deafening crash cut him off. Metal shutters slammed down behind us, sealing the retreat. The floor itself shifted with a grinding roar. Hidden walls rotated open, forming barriers that split our group apart with surgical precision. Panic erupted. Our soldiers fired at the new walls, plasma bursts scorching metal but not penetrating. Advanced weaponry defeated by structures the humans built by hand. That was when I saw them. Humans on the upper ridges, emerging from hidden alcoves, silhouettes watching us with cold calculation. They didn't fire. They didn't yell. They simply observed, waiting to see what we'd do. "Why aren't they attacking?" a soldier shouted.
because they didn't need to. They had turned the battlefield into a cage, a test chamber. And then from the darkness behind them, the human leader stepped forward. He looked down at us, an entire platoon of trained warriors, and spoke in that same calm, unsettling voice. "You have studied our world." A pause. "Now, study us." The lights went out, and hell began.
Darkness swallowed the chamber, broken only by the glow of our weapons. Shapes moved around us, fast, silent, coordinated. Humans attacked without warning, but not recklessly. Each strike was calculated to disable, not kill. A blast hit the ground beside me, knocking soldiers off their feet. Before they recovered, nets of electrified alloy dropped from the ceiling, binding them instantly. Pierre filled with sharp, clipped human voices. Sector 3 locked. Group B contained. Minimal resistance. Minimal resistance. They were talking about us. A figure lunged from the shadows, striking with a shock baton. Armor that could withstand anti-matter bursts crackled under the hit, collapsing the soldier within seconds. Humans weren't overpowering our tech, they were bypassing it, exploiting every joint, every seam, every blind spot. A hand gripped my shoulder. The human leader. "You don't understand the real threat," he said quietly. "It isn't us. It never was." Another wall shifted, sealing off the last exit. Our platoon was reduced to a panicked cluster at the center of a tightening trap. "We're containing you," he finished, "for your own safety." Before I could respond, a thunderous quake shook the entire underground complex. Dust rained from the ceiling. Human radios lit up with frantic warnings. "They found us!" someone shouted. "Fall back now!" The human leader's expression hardened. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. He turned to his soldiers. No fear in his stance. "Prepare Phase 2." Humans vanished back into the passageways, and for the first time, I realized they weren't the predators here. They were hiding from something worse.
The quake intensified until even the reinforced walls buckled. Our scanners crackled alive, detecting a massive energy surge approaching from above, something descending fast. The humans regrouped at the far end of the chamber, their leader raising his voice over the rumbling. "This is what we were trying to stop." The ceiling split open. A column of blinding white energy tore through the rock, vaporizing everything it touched. Not human, not ours. Something older, hungrier. Our soldiers opened fire, beams disappearing uselessly into the roaring light. The human leader pulled a device from his belt, a crude hand-built jammer, and slammed it into the ground. A pulse rippled outward, bending the energy column, weakening it slightly. "Move," he shouted. "We only have seconds." Humans and aliens, enemies moments before, stumbled together through the collapsing chamber. We raced down an emergency shaft as the energy ripped open entire sections behind us. "What is that thing?" I yelled. The leader answered without looking back. "The reason humans adapted so fast. A breath. The reason we had to trap you. It hunts intelligence, any species advanced enough to glow on its sensors." We burst into an evacuation bay as the entire tunnel system imploded. The humans sealed the blast door, breathing hard. "For generations," the leader said, "we've been fighting it alone." He stared at us, not with hostility, but exhaustion. "You thought humanity was the threat." He pointed upward, toward the trembling ceiling. "No, that is." Outside, the world screamed, and humanity, the species we feared most, stood between us and oblivion.